So welcome to Colonia Libertad. This is a neighborhood which translates into Neighborhood La Libertad. This is the oldest neighborhood in Tijuana, Mexico, the sixth largest city in Mexico, and it is basically a city or a neighborhood, I guess, a neighborhood which used to be a racetrack in the 1920s. And basically the first settlers in this neighborhood were people who took the bulls and the abandoned racetrack, and they basically made it their homes. And that's the first people that started settling in this neighborhood. So the little crosses that you can see right here are resembling the border wall that divides Tijuana and San Diego. And here you can see the train tracks that lead to, well, they don't lead to anywhere anymore because they've been closed down, but basically these train tracks were fully functioning basically in like the 1930s period, where this town was pretty bustling with tourists and with other work of that kind, but now they usually just use transportation in like bigger trucks and things like that. So these are the letters that have been welcoming people to Colonia Libertad for a very long time, probably like more than 2 decades. And over here you can see the newer lettering that welcomes you into the oldest neighborhood of Tijuana. And here we have some people observing and enjoying. These are the newer ones, so they're part of some projects of urban revitalization, where they're basically trying to get the culture to be a little bit more thriving and a little bit more young. And in some of the pictures you can see some of the landmarks that make this neighborhood so historic, like the House of the Woman, which is over there, and the Cine Libertad, which I'll take you to later. This is the border that is historic for obviously Tijuana-San Diego relations. I think that's a grave. That is a structure that is in remembrance of a father. That is a church, which is super influential to architecture in any Mexican city. And that is just a train that would be on the train tracks over here. So walking on over here, you can see the houses, which are not incredibly furbished, or it doesn't seem like they're super modern, but it's honestly a super authentic Mexican home that you could see that is not very new. Here we have actually some information that takes you through some of the pictures and like historic information about La Libertad, the neighborhood, and how historic and authentic it is. You can see obviously this picture is from the 1930s, as it says, and over here obviously it's in Spanish because, well, it's a Mexican city, but it basically says that it's the urban settlement, the most historic and oldest urban settlement in Tijuana. It's basically a point of comparison that demonstrates how much Tijuana has grown over the years, because you can see, as it is the oldest, it can tell you in comparison to the rest of the city, which has become pretty metropolitan, how much it has grown from like 200,000 people to millions, 1.2 million inhabitants. Here is a school, I think it's a school gathering in 1946. This is also a school gathering, but well, it doesn't say the date, but I can tell that it's pretty old. Over here we have a picture from the 20th century, and it's actually a picture taken with North American tourists, so Americans at the border. And then we have a picture of a building of a bridge, which is now incredibly modern, and I think it has been revamped since then, but this is from 1978. And this picture, well, they ripped it a little bit, but I think it's from the 80s. And look, just from seeing this, it looks like the urban landscape has extremely grown and extremely flourished in like the last 30 to 50 years. So that is an extreme example of how the neighborhood has grown incredibly and expanded as an urban landscape. No, está bien, no se preocupe, ¿qué pasó? Here, as you continue walking from the lettering, we can see one of the oldest schools here in the neighborhood of La Libertad. Here, somebody was just, this is a cart for tejuino, a super authentic Mexican drink that comes from very ancient times, and you can see them almost in every single corner. Over here, they were just telling me in that pizzeria Palermo that apparently it's been there for like 15 years, and people here come every Sunday to get the buffet. And apparently it's a staple here of the neighborhood. And it's a very busy street where you can see mostly that there's this huge church, and it is a cultural gathering for a lot of people here, very much because of Mexican culture and how much it is linked with religion. And apparently this is one of the biggest ones, and there's this one and then another one. Here, coming from the church, this is going to be the main avenue of the neighborhood, La Libertad. Over here, as you can see where there's a little flag, it says Ejército de Salvación, which translates into Salvation Army. You can see a little sign right there, and it is basically right there where it says Albergue para Migrantes. It's basically a safe house for migrants, and it is very much known that this neighborhood is it's a mix of people. It's either people who have been here since Tijuana started, generations and generations of migrants, or it's either migrants who are coming because they want to cross over into the United States. So this is only one of the many safe houses for migrants that you can probably find here in Colonia. Okay, so as we've kept on walking from the church on this main street of the neighborhood, I just bumped into yet another migrant home, or you could call sanctuary. You can see there it says human rights, and you can see all the beautiful flags. And I've just been told that apparently a migrant caravan, or a lot of the migrant caravans from Honduras, from Haiti, that have come into Tijuana in the last couple of years have come and saturated the area. As I said before, the area of La Libertad, the neighborhood, is very much known as a mixture of people who have been here since the first generations of Tijuana citizens, but then also people who are just looking for a place to stay whilst they try to move into the United States or go into the United States for better opportunities. And basically, I've been told also that on this main street, there isn't that much violence in the middle part of La Libertad, but in the upper parts of the neighborhood, which you can't really see at the moment, there was definitely more crime as well as in the lower parts, because there are places closer to the border where you will find coyotes, which are basically the people who cross over people in their cars or in other methods of transportation illegally. So basically, even though there's not that much crime here in the middle part, there definitely is. They found a lot of dead people in the upper parts and in the lower parts because of that closeness to the border, and because so many people want to move into the United States, such as the people in this sanctuary. So a very interesting urban landscape where you meet people who have been authentically Mexican for a long part of for their entire lives, and then also people who come from all over the world to move into the United States. Now we've been walking for a little while from the church, and basically it looks like some houses and a lot of commercial places, but then you have where it goes up, that is the area where I mentioned that there was a lot of crime involved because of the coyote community and the coyote basically jobs where they were crossing people over illegally, and that's why a lot of people come here to La Libertad, a lot of migrants looking to cross over. And right now I just stumbled upon Escuela Primaria Venustiano Carranza Tiempo Completo, and this is basically a middle school, and it's actually the oldest middle school here in the neighborhood. And as I've been told by my friend who knows a lot about this neighborhood, or who grew up in this neighborhood rather, apparently the school is super known, and there's a lot of information about it because it is one of the best schools here in Tijuana, and it is one of the oldest as well. And he was just telling me that some of the restaurants that you can find on this street, for example, some right over there. See, there's an example of how much urbanization has been going on. The mixture of authenticity of places like this, and then you have Chevron over here. So that's really funny, the comparison. But a lot of restaurants here have been a part of the neighborhood since the 80s, since the 50s, and since the 30s, and they still thrive because of the community, close-knit community that has been thriving here in the neighborhood of La Libertad. So it's been a great experience so far. Walking for a little while longer. This is a little bit more peaceful, but here we have probably, if not the most historic part, or one of the most historic parts of Colonia Libertad. The neighborhood is the Cine Libertad, which translates to movie theater Libertad, or Libertad movie theater. And it's not just your basic run-of-the-mill movie theater. It was actually it has a great history. It started in the 1930s when a lot of people would come, you know, for the escape of theater and for the escape of the arts. And it basically closed down after, basically in like the 1950s, and it remained, it closed in 1964, I believe. And it remained closed for about 50 years until recently in 2017, where one of the activists, local activists here from La Libertad, decided to renovate it and basically open it again for the community. And as we've seen in some of our modules, there's a thing about renovating in small communities, authentic communities, which can very easily lead to gentrification. But in this example, the person who opened it, Lorena Herrera, made a point of making it something by the community and for the community. So instead of making it something super nice and exclusive and premium, I guess, for another demographic to come in, she decided to make it more about the community. So there's a lot of local dancers and artists and from the community that decide, or that have a space to express their art here at Cine Libertad. And there you can see a little ice cream shop, which is super common to any Mexican city, but here I've been told that one's been running since the 1940s, I believe. So this is a very historic area, and now we're about to walk. So walking from Cine Libertad, we are at the Michoacana. Still very mix of old school kind of architecture, authentic Mexican with a more modern twist. And we walk around, aguas frescas, fresh ice cream. And here we have a taqueria, obviously very iconic of the Mexican culture, to eat tacos. And apparently this one has been here for since the 80s. So these kinds of places run all the way over Colonia Libertad, the neighborhood, and it's basically a lot of commerce that has been going on for years and years, and the community still supports it, so that's beautiful.
20 o 30. Sí.
Muchas gracias.
Ajá. Mi mamá. Es la calle 12 para abajo de la calle de la Colonia Libertad también.
No manches. Sí, es súper diferente ahora, ¿no?
Sí.
Sí.